The number flashed across the screen like a death sentence.
We're gonna have to let you go.
$86,000. Oh,
I understand.
bleeding red, falling fast, as if the world itself had decided to collapse in that exact moment. But what no 1 inches that marble-floored lobby realized was that the man standing there, holding a worn-out cardboard box and a framed photo of his little daughter, was the reason it was all happening. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of silent strength, take a moment right now to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel Kindness. Because stories like this aren't just meant to be watched, they're meant to be felt. Daniel Hayes stood quietly near the center of the vast corporate lobby, his presence almost invisible against the polished luxury surrounding him. His jacket was clean but old, his shoes carefully maintained, but clearly worn by years of effort. In his hands, he carried everything he had left from the life he had tried so hard to build. Some files. A coffee mug with a faded crack, and a small photo frame of a smiling little girl with bright eyes and messy hair. His daughter, Emily, his reason for waking up every single day. 3 years ago, Daniel had been someone else entirely. A respected financial strategist, a man trusted with millions, a provider for his family. But life had a way of rewriting stories without permission. His wife passed away after a long illness, leaving him alone with a 6-year-old daughter, and a grief so heavy it felt impossible to carry. He had stepped away from his high-profile career to be present for Emily, choosing bedtime stories over boardrooms, choosing love over ambition. But the world he had left behind did not wait for him. Now he stood here, summoned back not for opportunity, but for humiliation. Across from him, Claire Whitmore, the CEO of Whitmore Financial Group, stood tall, sharp, and composed in her tailored suit. She was known for her ruthless precision, her ability to turn companies into empires, and her complete lack of tolerance for weakness. To her, Daniel was a mistake, an outdated file that should have remained buried. Her voice cut through the silence, like glass shattering. She held a document in her hand, his termination letter, waving it slightly as if it carried no real weight. Around them, employees slowed down, pretending not to stare, but absorbing every second of the moment. She spoke with a cold certainty that echoed across the lobby, reducing years of his life into a single cruel judgment. In her eyes, Daniel wasn't a man who had sacrificed everything for his child. He wasn't someone who had once built financial systems that her company still profited from. He was just small, disposable. And then came the words that would change everything. "You're worth only $9. The sentence didn't just hang in the air. It struck like a blade. A quiet insult wrapped in arrogance. A number meant to measure a man's entire existence. Some nearby employees smirked. Others looked away. No one spoke. Daniel didn't respond immediately. His fingers tightened slightly around the box, his gaze lowering, not in defeat, but in restraint. Because there are moments in life when silence isn't weakness. It's preparation. Claire turned away, already finished with him in her mind. For her, this was just another routine dismissal, another insignificant moment in a day full of decisions that moved millions. But she didn't notice the small detail that would soon unravel everything. She didn't notice that Daniel hadn't argued. She didn't notice that he hadn't begged. And she definitely didn't notice the account still sitting quietly under his name. As Daniel walked out of the building, each step felt heavier than the last, not because of what she had said, but because of what it represented. Years of sacrifice reduced to a number. Nights he had stayed awake calculating risks for the company, now forgotten. The moment he chose to prioritize his daughter over endless profit, now used against him. Outside, the air felt different, colder, realer. He placed the box gently in the back seat of his old car, then paused for a moment, staring at the reflection of himself in the window. A tired face, yes, but not a broken one, because Daniel Hayes had one thing Claire Whitmore didn't understand. He had never truly left the world of finance. When he stepped away years ago, he didn't abandon everything. He simply shifted, quietly, carefully. While others chased attention, Daniel built something else, something unseen, and now it was time. Back inside the building, the chaos began subtly. At first, it was just a notification, then another, then dozens. Numbers started shifting on screens across departments. Accounts that had once looked stable began fluctuating violently. Analysts frowned, typing faster. Managers raised their voices. The giant display in the lobby flickered, and then turned red. A withdrawal request had been initiated. Not small, not moderate. Massive $86 million. Within minutes, panic spread like wildfire. The amount wasn't just large, it was critical. That account wasn't just any investment pool. It was a cornerstone, a hidden pillar supporting several high-risk structures the company relied on. Claire was called back urgently, her calm demeanor cracking for the first time as she stared at the numbers collapsing in front of her. Her mind raced, calculating, recalculating, trying to understand how something like this could happen without warning. Then she saw the name attached to the withdrawal, Daniel Hayes, the same man she had dismissed less than an hour ago, the same man she had reduced to $9. The realization hit harder than any market crash, because Daniel hadn't just been an employee. He had been the architect behind that account. Years ago, before stepping away, Daniel had created a private investment structure, his own safety net. He had poured everything into it, slowly growing it, carefully managing it in silence. While others forgot about him, he had built something they didn't even know existed, and Whitmore Financial had unknowingly depended on it. Claire felt something unfamiliar crawl up her spine. Regret. By the time she rushed to the lobby, Daniel was gone. The space where he had stood felt emptier than before, but heavier somehow, like something important had just slipped through their fingers forever. Outside, Daniel drove home, not with anger, but with a quiet sense of closure. He picked up Emily from school that afternoon, her small arms wrapping around him as she smiled without knowing anything about the storm he had just walked through. That night, they sat together in their modest apartment, sharing a simple meal. Emily laughed at something small, something insignificant, but to Daniel, it meant everything. Because value isn't measured in dollars. It's measured in moments, in love, in sacrifice, and in the quiet strength to walk away when the world tries to tell you that you're worth less than you truly are. Weeks passed, and Whitmore Financial struggled to recover. The damage wasn't just financial, it was reputational. Investors questioned their stability, internal systems were exposed. And Claire, she changed. For the first time in her life, she began to understand that numbers don't define people. People define numbers. Daniel never returned to that world. Instead, he built something smaller, something quieter, a consulting firm that worked with honesty, with care, with humanity at its core. He chose clients who valued integrity over profit, and slowly his life began to rebuild itself. Not into what it once was, but into something better, something meaningful. If this story touched your heart, if it made you reflect even for a moment, take a second to like, comment, and share this video. Because someone out there might need this reminder today. And before this story ends, here's a special request comment below. True worth can't be measured. Let's see how many people still believe in that. Because in the end, the world will always try to assign you a number. But your true value will always be something far greater.